Okay, year 3. So today we're going to start our portrait topic, and we're going to start by looking at how to draw the facial features. So we're going to look at the eyes, the nose and the mouth. And you can see on my drawings that I've used a lot of shading. Now, shading really helps the parts of the face to look realistic. So it takes time and it takes practice to do. Now, on the Firefly page, there are some sheets to help you. There's a sheet showing you eyes. So what I suggest you do is you choose one eye to focus on and to look at, because it's really important you keep checking as you're working. There are also some sheets that show you step by step how to draw the features, so you can look at those as you're working as well. Okay, so let's make a start. What I'm going to ask you to do first is to split your piece of paper. So have your paper portrait-wise up, and to split your paper into 3. So you need to fold it. It's easier to turn it around to do that. Fold it just over half, and then the other side just over half, so that they are the same length, and press it down. Okay. And then I'm going to open up my piece of paper and turn it portrait-wise. And first of all, I'm going to concentrate on drawing the eye. So the first thing I want to think about is the shape of the eye. And I'm going to keep this piece of paper next to me to guide me, okay? So I'm going to look at the shape of the eye, and I'm going to try and fill up quite a lot of this space. You might want to try more than one eye, so don't use up all of the space. But basically, the eye shape, if I'm looking over here, starts off in a sort of cone shape like this, and then slopes down and in an oval shape. Now, can you see I'm doing quite short strokes with my pencil so that I can change it at any time? And then it goes up more. At the top, it's a much greater curve. Okay, so I'm going up to the top here and then down into a V shape in the corner, okay? So the next thing I'm going to do is, if you look in the corner, you can see just some little lines in the corner by the end of the eye, and then a little disc in the corner, a little bit of tissue in the corner of the eye. So I'm going to shade those in next. Okay, and then I'm going to add the eyelid at the bottom. So I'm going to come in a little bit to do that. Up and around, and the eyelid is going to go up to this top lid over here, okay? And then I'm just going to add just a little bit more shading in the corner of the eye here, because I can see some shadows up in the photos here. And then I'm going to start to draw the pupil. Now, I can't see the whole pupil, so I'm not going to draw the pupil round. It comes round in a sort of rugby ball shape like this, and you can see the bottom of the eye along the bottom. Can you see I'm still doing short strokes with my pencil so I can make any changes, and I'm doing light strokes as well. So now I have the basic shape of my eye, and now I need to start adding some detail and some shading. Now the top of the eye is going to be darker than the bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move my hand up the pencil and just shade around that top lid like this. Remember, you're putting your pencil on the side, hand moves up the pencil, you're putting your pencil on the side to shade. And that just gives you more freedom to move the pencil. Okay, and then I'm going to shade around the pupil of the eye, the middle section of the eye. Make it quite dark. And you can see my lines, some of them they're not exactly even. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you have more than one line going around. Okay, you just want the impression of the eye shape. And then I'm just going to shade lightly at the bottom. I don't want the bottom to be as dark as the top. Here we go. So now I'm going to add the pupil, this part in the middle of the eye. And if you look at this blue eye, you can see the pupil in the middle, and then there are lines coming off it. So I'm going to draw that pupil in the middle. I can also see some reflections of light, so I'm going to draw those in. I'm going to draw a little square here, and that's going to be where the light is reflecting. Okay, and then I'm going to start to add those lines around the edge of the pupil. So they come out like this, and there's lots of them. And on one side, I can see them going right to the edge of the eye. So right up to the top of the eye over here. And then on the other side, I can't see them going quite so far, but still quite far out. And they definitely don't go down to the bottom of the eye. So just rough lines going right around the eye. Nice quick lines. You can move quickly when you're drawing the eye. Okay. Now I can see reflections of colour in the eye. So I'm going to now start to shade in my basic eye shape. So first of all, I'm going to shade in the middle section. I'm going to do it really dark at the top here. As dark as I can, so still with my hand moved up the pencil, and then I'm going to leave some bits darker and some bits lighter, so it looks like a reflection of the light. I can see that some bits are darker, some bits are lighter in the eye, and so I'm going to show that in my drawing. And it seems to be the middle bits that are slightly lighter. I'm going to show that by going just a little bit lighter with my pencil. Not too much, just a little bit lighter. Okay, I'm still leaving that little bit of light around here, but I'm just going to shade around there. And then I'm going to start to make the lines around the eye here thicker. Can you see it's a lot darker around the edges of the eye, around the edges of the pupil. So I'm going to reflect that in my drawing just by doing short little lines going right round. And then I'm going to shade outwards right to the edges, and it's going to be a lot lighter now. And I need to move in the same direction as those lines that I initially drew on to my eye. Shading right round the eye. Take your time, make sure you can still see those lines going around. Those are important, so make sure you're moving in the same direction as those lines. Okay, right the way round. Move your hand round if it's not going in the right direction. There we go, so there's my pupil shaded. And now I'm going to start adding this line around the eye. Can you see there? So I'm going to add a line just above the eye like this. And that's going to be quite dark, so I'm going to darken it up. Start light and then darken it up. And then I'm going to add shading to show the section around the eye. Shading just helps me to show shape, so it's really important to add that to your drawing. There we go. Shading right the way round. Okay. Now it's time to add shading under the eye. Can you see where those creases are, where the eye is a bit higher up? So I'm going to shade underneath the eye as well. Just like that. Light shading, of course. And then time to add eyelashes. I'm just going to make that line just a little bit darker. And then the eyelashes start quite small in the corners, but they are just really flicked strokes with your pencil. And you want those eyelashes, they don't need to be ordered and straight. They go in different directions, and some are longer than others, and they need to be quite dark. So flick strokes, they get larger at the top, and then they get shorter as they come round to the edge. Well, they're quite long at this side. In fact, they're longer at this side than on this side. Okay, and then I'm going to start to do the eyelashes underneath, which are shorter, but they're still flick strokes going in lots of different directions. And nice dark flick strokes as you go. Okay, so there we go. And then I'm just going to add a little more shading to show the whole eye. Okay, then last step here is to just add shading at the top of the eye, just lightly, just over the eye. A little bit lighter than the eye itself. There we go. Okay, the next step, once you have done the eyelashes, and you can see I keep adding as I go, I'm making things darker, I'm adding tones as I go. The next thing is to use a rubber, and the rubber is just to create highlights. So what I'm going to do, if you notice the eye, can you see there are rings of light around the eye? So I'm just going to rub my pencil through the eye like that to create those rings of light. Okay, and I might just create some around the edge, and then I think just a little bit of shading around the pupil like that. Keep adding a few dark lines. You can see I'm moving swiftly with my pencil, and there we go, there's my finished eye. Okay, so now we're going to move on to look at the nose. Now I find the nose the trickiest of the features to draw. Now I don't think, okay, yes, here I have a picture of a nose. Okay, can you see that? Yes, you can. Okay, so I've got two noses here. Now I find them tricky to draw. So what I always start by doing is drawing a circle, which is going to be this part of the nose here. And then I'm going to do a line that slopes inwards just a little bit like that. And another that slopes inwards on this side. Okay, and then I'm going to do a short line here where you see where the nostrils are. Do a short line on that side, short line on that side, and then a curved line going around like this. Okay, and then I'm going to add, on this I'm going to extend those lines to the sides here, and that gives me the nose shape. And now it's all about shading the nose. So I want to make the nostril parts really dark, and these sections around the nostrils dark, and this section here, because that's the darkest part of the nose that you can see. Okay, and then it all depends on your shading. So I'm going to shade around the edges, around this section of the nose. And I've moved my hand up the pencil and I'm lightly shading. I don't want it too dark. I'm lightly shading around that circle section, and I'm going to shade straight all the way up here on the side of the nose. I think it's quite difficult to make the nose look a realistic shape. And this is how I go about doing it. So I'm shading all the way up, down the sides, and then I'm going to make this section around the nose here a little bit darker shading. There we go. And then I'm going to shade the middle just a little bit lighter. A little bit more. And there we have it. That is my shaded nose. That is my nose. Okay, so I'm just showing the shape of the nose by the changes in my shading. Okay, so where the shading's lighter or darker, it shows the shape. Okay, so there's my nose. And now let's look at the mouth. So I'm looking at this mouth here, and I'm going to start by making a cross like this. And then I'm going to do the mouth shape. Now the mouth shape comes in at the end and then rises up into two little peaks like this in the middle and slopes back down again. And the bottom lip comes down to a point just here. Okay, now what I need to do now is to darken off the edges here. And then to create the line of the lips in between. Okay, and then I'm going to shade. I'm going to first of all put in a shading line just like this around the edge of the lip, and I'm going to shade that area just very lightly. I'm going to make, okay, so shading right the way around, and then I'm going to shade underneath as well, underneath the lips. Okay, so then I'm going to start adding lines on my lips, because you can see them on the edges of the lips. Both ways. There's also a heavy line that comes down the middle. And then I'm going to shade in that direction. So I'm going to shade my lips by moving up and down along those lips like that. Okay, I'm going to leave you to finish off. I'm going to leave you to darken the edges of the lips. I'm going to leave you to shade your lips. And then the last thing will be to darken underneath the lips here and in the center here. Because you can see there's a little shape in the middle of the lips on the drawing. You then need to shade around the edges of the lips. Like this. And that, I think, is the final part. So, there we go, year 3. This is how we draw the facial features in a portrait. I'm really looking forward to seeing your finished work. Bye for now, year 3.